Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the electrical. I know it's been a while since I put a video out, but I've been busy working on the shop. So let's jump into it and go over all the things we did. Alright, so gotta get to 2 feet. We're almost there. What we have going on is we're gonna have a post with a meter and a breaker outside that the power company will hook up to. And then from that meter, I'll be able to trench down and we'll pop up and go to my panel here in the shop. Tell you what, this stuff is not cheap. I didn't realize how expensive it had become. Between the pieces here, elbows, all the fittings, and we're talking the post and ground rod, blah, 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 all that stuff. I bet you we're at about $800, which doesn't include, my panel, the socket for the meter, the wire that has to run from the meter to my panel. So I may have underestimated the cost of the electrical. Okay, so we got to dig down 3 feet for this post. Alright, that gives me a rough idea of where we're going to hook up. So just in case the conduit doesn't come up exactly where I thought it would, the store had these meter offsets and they offset about an inch, so I can do that in about any direction. We don't have to be exactly to the post right now. We're just mainly getting things in place, and then if this has to run up straight and then we offset it, I think it'll look just fine. So this side feeds up and down into the meter, and then from our breaker we're going to go down and feed to the shop. So I'm going to knock out to this side, and then we're going to knock out this far right one. Key is just making sure you don't knock out more than you need. Now we can put our panel back on the post and get a rough idea of where to line our conduit up. On each of these we're going to have to do our expansion joint. Each of these has a midpoint, so that way you're not too extended either way. But at this point, we're going to measure and cut some of our C channel. This is kind of what my local area calls out for, so hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're doing. Where we finished up is we got our conduit ran up into our meter panel. Now what we have is our 6x6, 3 feet into the ground, and then on the inlet side here, this is coming from the power company, so it goes down to a 90, and then I have my trench dug, and then they'll run their conduit from this power pole. And then on the right hand side, this leg Goes all the way down, and we have a 2-foot trench dug, and we just have our Schedule 80 laid. Turned out okay. And then the trench goes all the way over here to the shop, and what we got here is a expansion joint with a piece that'll come up to an LB, and then this will pop through, and then the panel will just be on the other side. So that's where we're going to call it for tonight. Alright guys, we passed our inspection. There were a few things that I have to add on to the conduit and such. On the side that goes from the meter up to the power pole, I need to add an elbow there, so that way I can bury everything, and then the power company will just come hook up to that conduit. And then out there I needed to add another ground rod. So you have to have 2 ground rods that are 6 feet apart from each other, and they'll connect back over there. Now today what I'm going to start working on is mounting the box inside the shop. This is a square D panel. This is a 200 amp. This kit came with a 200 amp panel, had like 20 slots for breakers, and this one actually came with 3 20 amp breakers and 2 30 amp breakers, and it cost $175. One thing we're going to change up is on the outside. Our conduit right now is about this tall, because I thought I was going to take the box here and just kind of mount it about this yay height or so, because there were requirements on this can't be over, I think, 6 feet tall. But what he was showing me is the panels are actually reversible, so you can mount them higher or lower. That way your wires can come in the bottom here and land on your studs. Your conduit doesn't have to be so high on the shop. So that's what we're going to do today. I think that will be a nice solid surface to mount our panel to. The last final big modification to the shop for electrical, in my opinion, is going to be drilling that hole straight through the side, because once we've done that, we are committed. So alright, I'm going to mark my Alright, it's a little dark out here, but just want everyone to see. There's our hole, perfect, nice and center. So I'm just going to drill this through, and then we'll get it hooked up. Now, one thing I just did was I slid this coupling back here that has the threads for the panel, and I just realized that it's not going to have enough to stick through the panel and have any material. So what I think we'll end up doing is we'll pull this piece off, use like a slightly bigger hole saw, and then just kind of create a little recessed area, so that way this thing can sit into the backside and poke through a bit. Okay, so here is the side the panel will mount on, and then on this side I took a bigger hole saw bit and then was able to kind of reset the side in. So now we got almost all the threads sticking through, so now I'm just going to bolt this back up. Alright guys, sorry about the dark. Pretty much what we did is we secured our expansion joint here. I didn't glue this before my inspection just in case I had to change something, but we got that installed, and then now our LB is glued, and I had to cut about a 3-inch piece that'll go from here through the wall. And then on the opposite side we got our connection piece coupled through, and we cut enough so now our panel will be able to slide right over the top of that. Alright, so I went to the store and picked up some boxes. Did a quick design and just tried to lay out where I think boxes should go. So for the most part, coming off of our panel here, my plan is to have, you know, a few outlets just on this wall, and then from about right here we'll bridge up, and then these 3 outlets will be for the garage doors, and then maybe one in between them for like a extension reel. And then we'll have a separate circuit for a bunch of outlets on the far side, and that's probably going to be where most of my tools, and if I build a bench, it's probably going to be on that side. So I want to have a dedicated circuit with a bunch of plugs there. We'll have a box at the front for lights, same with the box on the back, and then I got some miscellaneous boxes for back here on this back wall. So my main focus is just to get a lot of outlets out here. I'm not super worried about having too many. I don't think that'll be an issue. I'd rather have an outlet where I need one than having to run an extension cord somewhere out here. So now's the time to just put in a bunch of outlets. All right, we're gonna go 54.5 to the center. So we're using this MC cable, and went to the store and bought these fittings that click onto the edge of the wire, and then the other end pokes through our box. Each of these boxes, as we go, we have to secure within a foot of the box, and then make sure that we're not going over 4.5 feet, I believe, or 4 feet. So I'll be able to set this in like so, and then clamp the run here, and if I need to, I can get probably two runs of wire in the hat channel. There we go. All right, apparently ran out of room on my camera while I was doing this, but ended up getting our outlets installed along this first run. This clamp system inside the hat channel is working pretty good. Okay. Here's a quick picture of how I'm wiring up the three-way switch. Here I'm running the 12-3 wire for my three-way switch on the interior light circuit, but all the other electrical runs from the panel were a similar process. Just made sure to secure every 4 feet and keep the wire tucked up and made it look nice and neat. Alright, just wanted to show what we're doing for our lights. So I found these boxes that have a little L, and they just make it easier for mounting to, probably for a stud, but in my case I can use it for the truss here. And all we're going to do with these is we're actually going to put in outlets, and these will just be switched outlets. This wall is going to have the most outlets. It's going to be where my workbench will be, and you'll see that I have some Romex. I'm taking the ground wire and using it to ground the boxes, plus using the extra to make pigtails for hooking up every outlet. Okay, so after doing some research online, I looked all over the place and I finally found these universal sighting pieces for mounting your lights. And so what I ended up doing is I ordered those, and we're gonna install one main light at the top of the shop, and I'm probably gonna buy a nice, just really bright LED light. I bought a 2-gang box that we're going to replace over on this side. And what that'll let me do is I'll leave a constant switch on, and that'll go to I'm probably going to do ring lights for both doors. Each door will have 2 switches by it. One of them will be the main lights inside, so you can turn them on either way. The front door here, we're going to have the main power to this light, because I don't really want to have a dawn to dusk light on the front that's like so bright. I'd rather have a dawn to dusk on the door light, just so there's a little bit of light out here, but not something that'll just light up my whole backyard all the time. So these were what I ended up ordering. Pretty much we have a back plate here, so I'm going to trace this square. We'll probably go about a foot up, I'm not really sure, but it'll be in that general area, and then we will cut it out, poke it through, and then I'll have to figure out what works best for mounting this to the metal. Alright, we did a similar thing on the other door. This side had the hat channel, so we just stuck the 1.5-inch tube behind it and put some screws in, but same process. Make sure to put some sealant on before you put that cover in. And then I went to the outside and mounted my screws. So now we're going to be moving on to this guy up here. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to stop by the store and purchase my lights, and we can get those wired up. I'm getting pretty good at forgetting to press record even this far into the build, but we pulled our main service line through the conduit. 2 4-aughts, 1 2-aught, and a number 4 for all the aluminum. Remember with aluminum to use the anti-oxidizing paste. The other thing that helped us out when pulling the wire through the conduit was using some Dawn dish soap that helped make the wire not bind so much around the corners. The 2 ground rods got a number 4 copper that connected the 2 ground rods together and then grounded back to the meter. And once it was connected to the meter, I did the same terminations with the service line. Today we're going to be installing our overhead lights. They are these 5500 lumen 4-foot shop lights. They all link together. I temporarily hooked up power to the lighting circuit. That way I could verify my lights as I plugged them in. But each of these rows is going back to the switched outlet mounted to the ceiling. I bought all these lights at Harbor Freight. I think they're about 13 bucks a piece, and I'm really impressed with how bright they were. Alright, so for the lights, we are going to go with these Wise camera floodlights. They were on sale at Home Depot for 70 bucks a piece, I think. So originally I was going to do the Ring cameras, but for the lower quality one, I believe it was like 150 bucks. And then just for a Motion generic branded floodlight, it was like $50. So I didn't plan on getting 2 with cameras, but figured it'd be nice to have them both look the same. I liked these because they had a bunch of different things: 2K video, night vision, wide range of activation. But one other thing I really liked was you could put a SD card in here and have it record your video without needing a monthly subscription. And then for the main overhead light, we're just going with this 8000 lumen floodlight, and I'm gonna have to mount it to this ring, but I think it'll look good and keep everything. I wanted to keep the doors looking the same, so that's why we went with these guys. But let's get them installed and see how they look. Now the these plastic white covers that I bought for our like these guys, they didn't come with any screws, so that's why we're gonna use the hardware we got from our light fixtures. We got 2 sets of screws. This fixture thankfully isn't super heavy, so once we get it installed, I think this hardware I have I'll be able to make work, get my connections hooked up, and then yeah, we'll be all done with our lights. I've been a little bit scattered between what I was able to wire up and show at the same time, so we'll do a start to finish on how the power is coming into the shop and then where we're going from there. So time to do a quick walkthrough. Meter panel. We have a 6x6 post into the ground going 3 feet deep, and then we have 2 runs. The one on the left sweeps down, comes up, there's a piece of conduit right here. That is where the electrical company will hook up to. At this post I also had to run 2 ground rods, and they're both 6 feet apart and then bonded together, and then one of these number 4 coppers runs back into the panel, and then from the panel we go down and dug a trench. We went 2 feet deep. This is all schedule 80. Could have done schedule 40 in my area, but had to have schedule 80 when it came out, so just did schedule 80 all the way through. Anytime it comes out of the ground, even at the meter, you have to have an expansion joint. Then we came up here to this LB and we went through to the shop. One last thing I need to add is going to be a bracket just to secure that. So coming into the panel, we have 2-inch piece that comes through the back of the panel. Now remember that you have to put these bushings on. I did have to undo my service wire to hook that up, so don't forget those things. Here I ran the grounds to their own terminal, and then I ran a piece up here just because I didn't run my ground long enough to bond it at the top. And neutral and ground aren't bonded in this panel because they're bonded upstream at the main feed, so it's important to remember on a sub panel. And then these are the circuits we have. I threw in a 50 amp welding circuit, and I had a bunch of extra THHN wire, so what the inspector told me to do is just throw an outlet right off of this panel. That way I don't have to run a long set of wire. And then I plan on just buying a heavy duty 50 amp extension cord. That way I can use it wherever I need to in the shop. So we got 5 circuits. 3 of them are for all of the wall outlets. I ran a dedicated circuit for the east, west, and north wall. One of these is for the interior lights, and then the other is for the exterior lights, and then my 50 amp for the welder. Now, I did these metal boxes, and at the beginning of each of the wall circuits, just make sure you have a GFCI outlet. You can also do the GFCI breakers. They were significantly more expensive. We're talking maybe $75 for the breaker, or I bought a 4-pack of these GFCI outlets for 60 bucks. So a little bit cheaper going that way. And then we have our MC cable. I ended up buying these 3/8 clamps for MC, and then on the inside of the hat channel just secured it within the code specification. I believe it was 4 feet and no more than 12 inches away from a box. And then we just went down and I added single outlets moving further down the line. Our first wall, this is the east wall, so I have an outlet here, and then I have a junction box that carries that wire up, and it goes to outlets for the garage door openers, as well as putting a outlet in the middle. I'm going to hang a extension cord reel up there. Back wall, same thing, GFCI outlet came up here, and then we ran some outlets along the back. And then it's a little messy, but on the west wall I have outlets on every single stud, and they go all the way down, and then my GFCI is down there since that's where I fed the power. But this is the main wall that was going to be used for power, so I made sure to put an outlet on every single stud. This is the side door, and we got 2 sets of switches. One of these will be for the interior lights. It's on a 3-way switch, so it's connected to the front door. And then this switch here is going to remain on at all times. It provides power to my exterior lights. And then for the interior lights, all this is doing is going up to 3 switched outlets, and that's where we plugged in the sections of 4 lights that we bought from Harbor Freight. And up here at the front door, same thing, we have a interior light switch. This is the 3-way, and this switch is for the exterior light. It's going to be switched. I didn't want it to be on a dawn to dusk, that way I could control when it came on and off. I decided to do these Wise floodlights. These have a camera on them with 2K video and a bunch of other settings. They were $80 a piece, so just thought that would be a good way to go. They have the ability to put an external SD card in to record locally and not need a subscription. And there's also settings that I can do for motion detection and also settings for dawn to dusk. That way I can make them dimmer and come on at a certain time range that I want to. And then at the front of the shop I just did a 8K LED light, which is tied to that switch, and I'm really happy I went that way. It's super bright. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up the electrical. It's been quite a bit of work. I called the power company and we should be able to get power hooked up sometime next week. Looking forward to what I'll be able to get done now that I have electricity out there. As for the build series, I may be putting it on pause. It's going to be a while till I'm able to put out another video. I do plan on doing insulation and HVAC. I did buy a ductless mini split unit earlier this week, so I'll do videos when I install them, but needing to save up a little bit more money to get some of those other projects done. So stay tuned for future videos. I will be adding them to the playlist as they come out as well. But I really appreciate the support of the shop build series. It's been fun to document it and show family and friends, as well as provide some insight to you guys. So hopefully you've learned something along the way. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I do plan on putting together a time lapse and maybe an extended video going through each of the phases of the build and going over things I wish I would have done differently, or just things that maybe I forgot to cover in the videos. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.